You have two best friends. Their names are Sasha and Paige. Sasha's played by Leighton Meester. Paige is played by Jillian Jacobs. They're great. They're very, very like codependent, close friendship relationship. And Paige meets a guy, Adam Brody. They go on a date, and it just kind of goes well. They really hit it off, and they start seeing each other more seriously. And so you go from this like, oh, we've had this like really super close relationship where like we are staying over all the time, and like, oh,
We
it's
have our America's Next Top Model. We
yeah,
like
it's
we
top
drink
model night.
like
It's
yeah, I sleep over all we sleep in the same bed all the time. We go to pride
right.
events together. Like you come with me to the gay bar. Like they're
Yes,
together
yes,
every
yes,
single
yes.
day. They're
They're
constantly
together all the
texting,
time.
they're calling all the time. Like they give each other updates on their lives like every hour.
And
Yes.
now Paige has a serious boyfriend, and most of her life starts to revolve around that. And Sasha gets a little
Pushed out.
pushed out of the top place in Paige's life, and it's a little bit of like watching. I mean, it's mixed in there. It's also the reality of like that time in your late 20s that I think a lot of us live through, where it's like some of you are meeting people and settling down and planning weddings, and some of you are like, you
Still
know,
partying and dildo fighting,
yeah.
you know?
Doing that life and like working kind of like whatever crummy job you have at the moment, like paying your bills and whatever. And so it's like the diverting paths of
Pathways, yeah.
life and whatever. So it's like there's all of that, but also it's tinged with this very queer reality to it. So that's sort of the plot, and honestly that's like all you need to know to understand I think most of the discussions that we're gonna have about it.
True.
The thing about it for me is like, yes, it falls into a similar camp that we had with Almost Adults. A little less so for me, because Almost Adults was hard because it felt like they weren't addressing at all the amount of chemistry that they had,
Yes.
which was hard. This, like, they clearly have chemistry and they're like clearly dealing with it in some ways. The piece that I still had a hard time with, even in this movie, is actually just that, like, I felt very deeply not queer to not have a wholehearted processing at the end. Like, the only part of this movie that disappointed me was the ending of it. I
Ending.
was like,
No, I literally was laughing because I like right, they got in this huge fight, they haven't been
yeah,
talking, right? And then they are like behind each other at a red light. And then like she
yeah.
honks and she's like, "You stupid bitch." She gets out of the car. And I was laughing and I was like, "And that's the end of the movie." And then I was
And then it
joking. I
ends.
was joking and then
It
it blacked
legitimately
out.
ends.
And then it blacked out. I was like, "Are you for real?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
like, granted, you get that one last little scene of them, but I was like, this is not enough for me. This is still not enough for me. And I think the only reason, actually, that I was a little frustrated is that at some point, this movie, I think, loses track of what story it's trying to tell. Right? And that's the only.
Because it dives a little too far into the Paige
It
and
somehow
Adam
becomes a story
Brody,
of
right?
like a Paige redemption arc. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where it's like, oh, we've had a whole movie about like these two people and their relationship, and how Adam Brody has now come in and like how this shifts their relationship, like, and throws everything out of whack and all this stuff. And then somehow it turns into a movie that is about like, here's how Paige learns how to have a relationship
Yeah.
and get out from the, like,
Toxic
thumb
patterns
of
of her
her
mother.
mother.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
like,
And it's like, and I don't, it that's fine for me. Like, that's fine if that's sort of where it landed, because I thought it was nice. It was like a nice, I mean, it was very tidy, to just be like, I was texting and driving, and
yeah.
I did fuck up my relationship and all this stuff, and like, that's okay.
But then she also never says the
She,
central conflict is
yes,
really between Sasha and Paige,
yes, and they
and
never
she
go back
never
to it.
says sorry to Sasha. She says sorry
Yes,
to Adam Brody. What the
yes.
fuck is his name in this?
Hold on. I
She
have already
says
forgotten it. Tim. Tim.
sorry
Of
to
course it's
Tim.
Tim. Of course it
She says
is.
sorry to Tim. She says sorry to her neighbor. Like, we don't care about the neighbor.
Right.
And then your conflict resolution with your best friend of like how many years
Yeah, non-existent.
is let's like, all right, we're sweeping it all under the rug. Like, no, there's some serious issues between the two of you, and that's why Sasha flipped out on you.
Yeah.
And you never
And
talk
it's
about it.
and they had such opportunity too, because it's like, oh my god, that scene at the end when they're both in their cars and they both see each other, right? Like Sasha stopped and Paige's car stops, pulls up behind her, and she like realizes that it's her and then is like, don't look, don't look in the rear view, don't make eye contact, like maybe she won't notice me if I don't notice her. And then you see Paige doing the same thing, and I'm like, that moment is so, it's like, it's such a fucking gut punch though, because that's like, it's so real, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like that experience of like the discomfort that those types of things create is like palpable. And I wanted there to be the payoff of that. Like I wanted that to lead to a real reunion and a real moment for Paige to finally reconcile this relationship that she also fucked up.
Yes.
And then it just never came,
It
and I
just
was like,
never
what?
comes. And then they're just like, all right, we're at the day before your wedding. Yippee.